stage, Rachel Bloom.
I dress like Drew.
Well,
Before I remembered how much this movie's about fucking your teacher. We got into it and I was like, oh, that's what this is about. Fuck.
Well, that was seriously Rufus, I would say.
That was not Rufalicious. It was
not
Rufus.
Yes.
The woman stopping James Franco from assaulting her was interesting.
Yeah, there we go.
That was weird, right? Oh, boy.
Well, yeah, I think to kick it off, I want to, I think...
I dress for standing. Just listen. I'm a real woman. I got a little bloated PMS tum-tum right now, okay?
We've been eating a lot of snacks, too.
Oh, we've also been eating constant snacks. We were sitting right there. If for anyone saw, we had an assortment of cookies, gummies, popcorn, and fresh peaches to balance it out. I want to begin by saying two things, and this might dovetail with your questions, and I apologize if it steps on any. So, the reason I picked this movie, again, before I remembered the creepy teacher, because I hadn't seen it in probably 10 years. So, it's pre-Me Too. So I grew up here. I grew up about 30 minutes south of Manhattan Beach, and this was shot here. And I kind of grouped this together with a lot of high school unpopular girl popularity movies like 10 Things I Hate About You and She's All That, which all came out around the same time, 1998 through like 2000. And the reason that I did was that's when I was in middle school. And I was really unpopular in middle school. I went to this place, Manhattan Beach Middle School, which if you ever go down to Manhattan Beach, it's this beautiful open-air middle school. Someone's car alarm's going off. Someone's car alarm or alarm.
Popcorn.
Heart monitor. Oh, it's the popcorn? Great. That won't be distracting. Anyway, I went to this beautiful middle. Oh my God! Thank God it stopped. Now I can be myself. I went to this beautiful middle school, and I was really, really unpopular to the point where when I was in 7th grade, around the time this movie came out, and around the time I saw this, the popular kids paid the most popular kid in school to ask me out as a prank. And it was like the scene in this movie where like word got around really quickly that this kid Ryan was asking me out, and he asked me out, and it was this whole thing where I was suddenly popular for a day. And at the time, which is not in a movie like this, I had really bad what I now know was obsessive compulsive disorder. So like part of the reason I was unpopular was because I was like weird. I was like cutting my own hair. I was wearing sweatpants to school because I was depressed. And so it was a hugely horrible and traumatic experience. There's nothing like, having a school-wide prank played on you. And I think about when that happened and how much I related to these movies. And not only that, but how much I feel like the popular kids saw themselves as the popular people in these movies, to the point where like the prank they played on me was so like you'd have in a movie. It was like they were doing an impression of the mean people in the movie. And it made me, watching this, I was like, what came first? If movies like this hadn't existed, would they have played that prank? Would I have been as unpopular? When we reinforce the idea that society is kind of, grouped into these like black and white types. Because by the time you got to high school, it wasn't like that. But this is like middle school. And I do find, I think still that shows about middle schoolers are really for like little kids. Shows about high schoolers are really for middle schoolers. And then middle schoolers are watching like shows about college. And then, like it's always kind of, you watch the thing that's aspirational. So the movies like these, I feel like were really for 11, 12, 13-year-olds. And you buy into it. And for better or for worse, you root against the popular girls, but you kind of want to be them. You root for the loser kid, but you understand why she's a loser. And so every time I watch that egg scene, I am like, get traumatized. Not because that's what high school was like for me, but that's what middle school was like. And I see myself in the women in these movies. I really do. And I feel a lot. And these are not flawless, but if we're talking about representation of women in media, to go on the other side. So maybe these movies reinforce stereotypes, but on the other hand, it was the only time I really saw myself in like these losers. And I'll say about that pranking story, when it happened, so like he asked me out and then it was like revealed to be a prank. And when I got to school the next day, I was dreading going to school and I was like, can I please skip school? And Mom was like, no, you gotta get an education. So I went to school and I was expecting everyone to laugh at me, but what the popular kids had done was so horrible, like in a movie. Everyone started to turn against them. And I had suddenly other, like the smart popular kids who weren't quite in with like the trashy popular kids, come up to me and be like, I'm so sorry that happened. And that actually, like, I started to get more popular because of what happened, and they started to decline, and I got on homecoming court, bitches! Thank you. None of them were on homecoming court. They all fucking fell off the face of the earth. Suck my fucking clit. Sorry. Here's the second thing I'll say. I'm sorry if there are children here. I'm sorry. So the second thing I'll say that I feel with this movie now, and I think the last time I maybe saw this movie was when I was in high school, is the idea of this older teacher figure. I think part of the reason I didn't notice it was I didn't have a relationship with a teacher, but so my high school had a very good theater program, and there was this guy who came in to be our music director who was actually only a year older than we all were. So when I was 17, he was 18. So really not that big an age gap. I was in Into the Woods my junior year. He was the music director, and he every day would drive in from Glendora, which is right next to West Covina. Which is actually why Crazy Ex was set in West Covina, because of this guy. Because I would try to find excuses to Glendora to go see him. So anyway, he was the music director of my high school musicals, and I fell desperately in love with him. And he was into me, and we hooked up, and then he broke my heart. And then came back to musically direct my senior year production while he was also jerking me around, and it was awful. So I connected to the older man teacher thing, even though this guy was just only a year older than I was. It wasn't creepy, but this was creepy.
Yeah.
This was creepy.
I loved hearing the audience reaction to the
Oh,
extra
boy.
creepy. Like we were all here. We were feeling it.
There were some parts where I thought it was kind of sweet, and then people would be like, boo! I was like, well, okay.
Yeah. I think I've been thinking about that a lot recently in watching a bunch of old rom-coms and picking what to show, is like, how do we both love these films but also critique them?
Yeah, I mean, I think this, right? You love the things that you love, especially because a lot of it's rooted in nostalgia and who you were, and you critique the things that you're like, yeah, you couldn't do this in a movie now. I mean, it's inherent to the plot, right? That she kind of falls in love with her teacher, and he never does anything outwardly harassy. It's just more the way he stares at her. I mean, look, if I were in high school and I had like a hot English teacher staring at me like that, I don't know how I would have reacted. It's not right. It's not right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know.
And even around popularity too, is like what you were saying, is how do we what do we take away, or what do we want to learn about popularity, and is this good that she's striving to be popular?
Yeah, I think what was interesting is that part of what makes her, I really identify with this character, and part of what makes her uncomfortable in her own skin, which it also leads to her unpopularity, is her urge to be popular. Even in high school, she loves the older kids. She's always trying to impress the older kids. Something about that's cool about Lily Sobieski's character is she doesn't give a shit. And I actually think in real life she would probably be popular because she mostly doesn't seem to care. I think part of the reason I was made fun of was because I wanted desperately to be popular, but I didn't know how. So I mean, really, it was the type of thing where how can I would write in my diary, like, how do I impress the popular kids? Like, I thought about the popular kids all the time, and I was like, I know, I'll do Adelaide's Lament in the school lip sync contest. And I was doing this stuff to impress them and try to be popular in a desperate way. Like, cool people can smell desperation in a way that's like not, it's horrible. I hate it. And the only way that I ever, I think, got away from that was just being like, yep, I'm a dork. If you don't like me, I hate you.
Yeah, I love the Aldi's characters so much. In this.
She's
It's
great.
like she's owning it. She's fixing cars, doing calculus.
She introduced. Fun fact about Lily Sobieski: she grew up with one of my best friends, actually the maid of honor at my wedding, and she was in a movie with my husband's writing partner and introduced them, and they're married. She introduced two of my best friends, and they're married, and they now have a daughter. So thanks, Lily.
Thanks.
I've never met her.
True love.
Never met her.
Speaking of love,
Yeah.
I like how Josie talks about her one penguin. Everyone has a one penguin. What's your take on that?
You know, I actually think that's the most dated part of the movie because I love what Dan Savage says, that you never find the one, you find the 99.99% and you round up to one. This idea that love is this thing floating in the clouds, that it's this ethereal thing that we can only hope to grab if kind of like the universe or whatever bestows it upon us. I think that's really, really damaging messaging. That it's very like, you know, I mean, it's Shakespeare, it's Western culture, like it is what it is, and we want to be in love. Our bodies want us to be in love. Our bodies want us to be obsessed. But the idea that like you find that one person, it's really damaging. And it's outdated too. I mean, the divorce rate I think is still at like 50%. So we're saying you either chose the wrong person, now you're fucked, or you chose the wrong person and now this new person's the right person and you were an idiot before, or oh, that was the right person and you fucked it out and now you should never love again. Like, it doesn't track there being this idea of the one. So I think that, to me, that's still the most dated part of all of these movies, that lack of ambiguity, that lack of let's see what the next chapter is. You know, the kiss is the final thing. And that's just, look, that's what a rom-com is, but I like rom-coms that lean more into that ambiguity.
Yeah, well, that kind of ties into your wonderful show, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I would say.
Thank you.
I was telling you before, but my boyfriend and I, when we were doing long distance, we were watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend from New York to Oakland, hitting play at the same time. So it's very much a part of our relationship. But I think of it as a very modern take on a rom-com, and I'm curious if you would call it that.
Yeah, I might spoil the end of the series, so if you haven't seen it,
Close your
sorry.
ears.
So my co-creator, Aline Brosh McKenna, who would love to be here, but she's in Europe getting plastered right now, I think. So Aline is, I mean, this is what she wrote. She wrote rom-com, she wrote 27 Dresses, and then wrote kind of workplace rom-com-y adjacent things like, of course, The Devil Wears Prada, which she wrote every word of, by the way. I just want to put that out there, that every single line, it's not like, that wasn't like writers coming in and punching up her shit. That was all her. I try to tell everyone that. And then things like Morning Glory, like this kind of rom-com-y space was her jam. And it dovetails a lot with what was my jam, which was not only movies like this, but musical theater. And especially Golden Age musical theater, which also falls into there's the one person and now let's sing a song about it. And so when we started pitching Crazy X, we knew we wanted to lean into these narratives that we'd been working in, into these genres we'd been working in, and deconstruct them. To glorify them, but also deconstruct them. And so, yeah, I mean, the way that the show ends, which I'm gonna spoil the end of the TV series for you right now.
You haven't watched it yet. What are you doing?
I mean, you just watched it this morning. Oh no, wait. So no, it wasn't you. Someone stop. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, that was such a bitchy thing. No, you watched it a while ago.
I've been here all day.
Oh my God, you're completely right. No, nope, I'm confusing you with someone in the bathroom.
All good,
Here's what you have to understand. Here's what you have to understand. I was at Disneyland all day yesterday, and I got like 5 hours of sleep before Disneyland, and I'm also PMSing. So I apologize. You have already seen it. What a bitch. I'm never getting asked back to this festival. I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, someone else stopped me in the bathroom and said they just watched it, and thank you for your patronage. Goodbye. That's my time. No. That was unbelievable.
Spoil it.
That's one of the.
Spoil it for
It's one of the
everyone.
worst moments of my life.
Stop.
It was terrible.
But there's no one penguin. Your whole
Oh,
series is around these multiple men that you've created.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And then
Yeah. Okay. The series was all about a girl being stuck in what she imagines is a rom-com-y dramatic love triangle, and then comes to realize, not that she needs to be married to herself, but that's beside the point of the series. The point of the series is finding who you are inside, and then you can find that person. Because the problem is the idea of a person completing you means that you are then completely dependent on that person to define you, and you enter into a fundamentally unequal relationship. But once you know who you are and what you want, and have really explored yourself, then you're ready for love. And so it was always, then that was part of our pitch. It was always ending up with the character becoming a songwriter and saying, this is a song I wrote. That was always the last word of the series. But it was always kind of, it was always kind of this writing this fine line of I don't want to say you should never be with anyone ever, especially not someone who has a diagnosed mental illness. But the point of the show was never about the guys. And so I think that's what I'm interested in love is great. It's all great. Having a relationship is great. I've been with my husband for 11 years. I know it's a long time. It absolutely has made me a better person. He makes me want to be a better person. But that's the point, is it doesn't feel like this toxic thing. He makes me want to be better because I came into it not with as much as self-respect as I would give myself credit for, and that was work that I did later on, that we got together and I knew how to kind of hide my lower self-esteem, my lowish self-esteem, and then I got really heavily into therapy as we were dating, and now I feel like it's equal in all the right ways. But yeah, and that's a way less interesting narrative than you're the person who completes me, because that's what our bodies and our minds wants, because that's the mating dance, right? But that's what it is. So that's what I think is the most dated aspect of and problematic aspect of any rom-com is that putting on a pedestal the idea of romantic love.
Yeah. Do you think that storytelling has shifted in the genre of rom-coms at all, so that there is more depth behind just the love aspect?
I think so. I think we're getting better at it. I think there is. I think it comes and goes. But I mean, it's not just rom-coms that have that, though. It's action movies. It's this idea of, even in these movies where guys are, here's me trying to pretend I watch action movies, but when guys are driving cars and driving cars, there's always this idea of babe, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna drive this car for you, babe. And she's like, you got it, babe. I'm here, I'm pregnant with your baby, babe. And he's like, it's all for you, babe. And that's the one pure thing in the movie, which is also weirdly problematic, and that's my impression of action movies.
That was great. I think you should star
Babe, what
in the
about my
next
baby,
action
babe? Babe, I'm gonna go do this. Take care of little Joe. Okay. Bye.
Excellent. You're hired for the next action movie. Yeah.
Please no.
Do you feel rewatching this that Never Been Kissed has influenced you creatively at all? Do you think, or any other rom-coms?
Yeah. I think again, it plays into my emotions. It reminds me of when I was a loser, so it makes me want to write about that more. And it also makes me want to deconstruct. I mean, the idea of falling in love with an authority figure who. It's weird because if she were in high school, he would have all the power, but actually she has all the power, which makes it not as weird for me, but it still is weird. If I were a parent at this school and I'm at this game when he runs down and kisses her, I'd be like, wait, so he thought he was her teacher, though? I'm gonna not have my kid go to this school. Also, when she's at the prom, she's like, I'm 25 years old! And he just walks out. And he's like, no, man. It's a really low-key moment. Everyone's really surprised. And then they restart the prom within 5 seconds.
We were both like, wow.
If that happened at my prom would be canceled. I think someone would have probably called the police at that point. There would have been a newsletter sent out to the parents saying we understand a lot of you are concerned with this 25-year-old
A lot happens in 20 years.
She walked into the locker room and was like, "Cover up your dicks, boys. I'm Josie." It's not okay.
Yeah.
You have to go meet the coach. Meet him for lunch. Call the coach and say, "Hey, I have a really interesting proposition for you. I would come into the locker room, but that wouldn't be appropriate. I'm a 25-year-old woman. I want to give I think I want to give the young men their sense of a safe space, too." But no, she was just like,
I think next time we're gonna make a bingo and everyone's gonna check off all the inappropriate moments.
Yeah, like I went to see Austin Powers at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and there's a lot in that movie that's problematic too. I mean, it leans into it. He's a lech, and they know it. But the audience was so desperate for redemption. The moment where Elizabeth Hurley is drunk and trying to fuck him, and he goes, "No, I can't, darling. You're drunk. It wouldn't be right." This whole audience was like, "Yeah, Austin, yeah." We're so thirsting for the things that we loved as children to be retroactively woke. It was like this beautiful moment. Then he's just like, "Oh, birds are just fuckholes for me, baby. Yeah," like in the next line, and we were just like, "Oh no."
Oh no. Well, I have tons of questions I
you
could
have
ask you.
questions. Before I accused you of not watching my television show, after you were like, "This is how my boyfriend and I fell in love."
But we have so many fans here that I think probably have some questions. So
Great.
Should we ask them for some?
Sure. Is there an organized system? Okay, we just call on them?
It's going to be a little...
I'll call on you like Mr. Coulson. I'm going to call everyone. Okay.
You have to stare at them very
I'm going to call everyone
sexily.
Josie and stare at you like he stares at her.
Wonderful.
Okay. Josie. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Josie. Feels bad to be creepy on that. Okay. All right, okay, wait. Wait, let me call on you creepily. Josie. Yeah, what's up?
All like the rom-coms you saw as a kid and growing up and stuff, what do you think is the most like impactful on you as like an artist, as a creator?
I loved the end of The Breakup, that Jennifer Aniston Vince Vaughn movie, because they don't get back together. They see each other, and the end of the movie is a beginning. It's a world of possibilities. And I just thought that was so smart and realistic and cool because it leaves the door open and you root for them, but like you don't know. They just see each other again. And my husband was pitching on something, and there was a producer of The Breakup who goes, "It was a flop. We should have had him kiss. Everyone wants a kiss," but that's the reason I love that movie. Josie.
I hope La La Land falls under the genre of rom-com. The ending you just described, is that the same type of ending?
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. I actually really like the ending of La La Land. Yeah. I think the setup was, because he could have gone to Paris with her. Like, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, just go to Paris. But no, it's, yeah.
How would you...
Yes.
How do you define a rom-com? I've thought about this a lot. Because I agree they don't have to end up happily ever after, but what do you think has to happen to make it in the category of rom-com?
Well, it's a com, so it's not a draw. So I think no one dies.
Gotta laugh.
It's generally, you can tell that the movie's meant to have a comedic angle and that the central story is about love.
That's valid.
But there are so many forms. I mean, some of my favorite rom-coms are, like, I love Forget Paris. And that has nothing, I mean, it is a big kiss moment, but that's about an ongoing relationship. So I love movies. I love movies like that.
I've decided it has to have a satisfying ending. Like, I don't think you can leave...
Shouldn't that just be a movie?
Or like a uplifting, satisfying.
Oh.
Like, you can't leave a rom-com and be, like, depressed.
I mean, I guess
Can
The
you?
Notebook is a drom-com.
That's
a rom-drom.
Rom-drom. Rom-drom.
Fuck, man.
All the words. Okay, any other?
If you laugh during The Notebook, does that make you a psychopath? If you're like, oh my God, it was the same woman the whole time. Oh, Gosling, Gosling, Gosling. You've done it again.
Okay, who do you want to? Who are you stare at?
Wait, I gotta call on you creepily. Josie. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend movie. Well, my question is, we did the narrative we wanted. So it would either be rehashing that narrative. I think it's much more likely to be a stage musical because it loans itself. We want to compress it like a movie and take some form of the narrative that we did and make it, because a good stage musical is a good condensed narrative, just like any movie. And I think it's conducive to the stage because we already did the best filmic version of the musical numbers on the television show, but haven't done them for the stage. So I think it's more likely to be that. But I mean, if it were a movie, it would be something. You would take the character and do something completely different. You would do another plot. Jesus Christ, I'm doing so many shows, and people are not happy. They're like, "Oh my God, can you come to my living room though?" That's so cool that you're doing Chicago. Okay, so you're doing Chicago. I live on the outskirts of Chicago, so that's not gonna work.
You gotta come to Rachel.
They want me to. Yeah, sure. We'll bring it to Europe. Yes, of course we will. If we do a musical on Broadway, the odds of it coming to Europe, yes, are high. We probably will.
Yay! Well,
You're very nice.
congrats! I know you just finished.
It's just
tour.
you tweet a thing and you go, "I'm doing a show," and everyone's upset.
Oh, I know. It's hard to please everyone. They all love you.
So
It's
tired.
okay.
No, it's fine. I'm just. Aline was like, people are really angry.
No.
No, they're not. I'm gonna go in the back. Josie. Ooh. Well, I think that especially, you look at something like Always Be My Maybe, which point by point does take a lot of the kind of tropes of a rom-com, right? You have that big getting back together moment. I mean, the one that sticks out for me, which is marvelous, is in every rom-com, there's always the part where the protagonist is talking to their sidekick about the person. They're doing yoga or playing basketball or something. There's always that set piece. And Always Be My Maybe, it's Randall Park and his father in a Korean spa getting exfoliated. And so it's taking that but going, here's our take on it, which I thought was one of the most brilliant parts of that movie. Is it structurally took a rom-com and then made every moment its own thing. So I would say the value of showing traditional rom-coms like this is to show, okay, this is what the established status quo was. Now we're gonna watch what people are doing now, so you understand that kind of history. It feels weird to compare it to like classic portraiture and Picasso, because that's not the thing it is. But you can't really fully appreciate Picasso until you see like the boring Renaissance portraiture and you understand what he was doing. So I'm saying this is the Renaissance portraiture, I guess. But I think that the understanding of narrative and narratives we fall into and narrative traps and tropes we fall into, so that you can then understand that to subvert them, has value. It's just all about context.
Okay, I think we have time for like one more question.
Who's got like just like a question that's like,
That's
wow,
relevant
I'm gonna
to
blow
others.
your. No one's ever had a question like this in the history of questions. Like, this is like critical thinking. Okay, sure, you're shrugging, which means you're really confident. How do you make a show about mental illness when you're mentally ill yourself, or any kind of creative project? Yeah. Yeah. Well, those are two different. So there's two different things, right? There's the act of working through the mental illness, and then there's the act of how do you then create art based on that. So it's two different things. So obviously, first step is to get out of bed and do that. I mean, and which is why it's damaging this idea that you have to be, in order to be creative, you have to lean into depression. You have to, especially when you look at how we encourage artists to be drug addicts or to be fucked up or to be in bumpy relationships. It's a damaging narrative because it's not always synonymous with creativity. So I think that once you get past the, okay, now I have the urge to go and write, it's just writing. What do you know to be true about yourself in the world that you haven't seen other people write about? For me, it's all about that gap. It's like being an entrepreneur on Shark Tank. You see a need, you see a hole, you go, this is something I know to be true, but no one's quite done that. This is what I can fill, which is why trying to write a narrative that's not true to yourself or a narrative that you think other people want is bullshit because other people have already done that. But no one can write about your experience better than you, and that's the hole you can fill. But getting, past, anything from depression to mania, getting past that and actually getting work done, that's a kind of separate thing of getting the help you need. And or find a psychiatrist that's not an asshole. Yes, exactly. Find a psychiatrist that's not an asshole and find the right. I know, I'm sorry. I know, it sucks. The healthcare in this country, fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. I'm sorry. Psychology Today has a really good database. That's how I found my guy. Yeah.
So I know you just finished a tour, which looked awesome. You're heading on tour again.
It's a
mini tour.
It's a lazy ass tour.
Lazy
I have to
tour.
say, I was saying people
Don't
were bitching at me.
yourself.
No, but people were bitching at me
No,
to come to
but-
them. I'm really not doing that many cities, and it's one.
What am I doing next?
With my life
with
now.
Your life.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about what you're going to be talking about? What's happening?
No, because I don't know yet.
Is every show going to be the same? Is it? Just
I don't know.
You talking on? You have no idea.
I don't know.
Cool.
It's probably going to be a lot of old shit with some new shit. So that I'm getting away with old shit by saying, what am I going to do next? Here's an old song. I don't know. Yeah, I'm in a period of kind of transition, and we were talking earlier. She goes, what else are you doing next? And I said, honestly, the answer is so boring, which is a lot of general meetings and a Microsoft Word document that goes, things to pursue, ? So the answer is I'm getting to know my husband again,
Yeah.
which is really important.
What have you been doing to celebrate and enjoy some downtime? Maybe.
I went to Disneyland yesterday with my best friend who we've been going to Disneyland together since we were 16 because he grew up here too. He was my boyfriend in high school, but then turns out he preferred men. And actually his husband, we're kind of like a non-sexual foursome. His husband and my husband are obsessed with each other, and his husband is this brilliant artist who designed the art for my ketubah at my wedding, and we love each other. And I'm just being a person and being with my dog. And I think that we're all in LA. I think that talk about damaging narratives. I think that there's this damaging narrative if you're an artist that everything should come before your art, which at a certain point in your life is true. And in the case of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I, in a good way, had no choice. You have to be on set 14 to 16 hours a day. Otherwise, the show will not get made. I had to work on the weekends because otherwise songs wouldn't get written. But at a certain point, then there's, okay, you've done that part, you've done the overwork, you need to balance it. And I think that if you can, trying to put your personal relationships and your own well-being over your work is going to end up being better for your work. And I think that that's a narrative that we don't get in places like Los Angeles, where your only value seems to be, what are you working on? What's your pilot? And no one says, what's making you happy today? You know?
Yeah, love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. Really, mission of Rom Com Fest is to celebrate love and love, self-love, love of others, and just to spark joy and bring feel-good happiness. And you have brought a lot to so many people, and it's just an honor to have you here.
Thank you. And I'll say one more thing is that I love that you're doing this because I think that rom-coms have been pushed to the side as chick flicks. And I think stuff seen as being inherently made for women for so long was lesser than. And it was lesser forms of art. And I relate, look, this movie has its problems, but like I still relate to this character more than characters in movies that are seen as having, you know, more gravitas because they don't seem as female. And so I think that what's really cool about this is, yes, these movies have their problems, but for so long, these types of movies were the only things being made for women, with the idea that this is a female movie. And I think that we're now really questioning what art have we kind of pushed aside in a different category that we can now elevate them and look at them with a skeptical lens that we couldn't before.
Yeah, and we're trying, thank you guys all for coming out today. We have all day today and tomorrow a mix of classic as well as a bunch of new rom-coms that are really taking on the genre in different ways. Right after this, we actually have a table read of a screenplay competition as a brand new one. So if you guys want, you're welcome to stick around.
Which is awesome.
Really
Any
cool.
screenwriters out there who are having trouble getting your shit done, schedule a table read. Do it at your house, do it with people, but make yourself accountable. That's how you get work done. That's the only way I get work done.
Awesome. Well, let's get work done, but let's also relax and enjoy
yes,
enjoy
let's
life.
relax.
Thank you.
Thank you.